Cool. Thank you for jumping on with me today.
No
And
worries.
for everybody that's watching this, this is my friend Fleur, and we've had a very interesting adventure together. But I wanted to jump on today and just chat to you quickly and get you to share with me and anyone that watches this. What is it that you do, Fleur? So talk about what you do and share just a little bit about yourself, please.
Beautiful. Okay, what do I do?
Yeah.
It's interesting because I guess in the pre-chat to this, I was kind of talking to you about how things have sort of shifted slightly. But I guess if I kind of wrap it up into one thing or like into something, I'm a coach and I work in the space of purpose coaching, but also not more recently, but I guess I've always done relationship coaching, but relationship coaching as well in itself goes in waves of like, yeah, where there'll be a lot of focus for me on purpose and potentially working with people who are at a stage in their life that they're trying to work out like what's next for me or how do I craft this into this thing that I'm passionate about or I believe in into something that really hits that for me. And then in combination with that, because I don't think you can separate those things, then sometimes relationship work around that. So sometimes that's supporting a person to sort out their foundational stuff. So their relationship's in a good place, so then they can go on and do their purpose. And sometimes it is about people getting themselves into a good place, so then they can find or build the right relationship for them.
Talk to me
So
about Purpose Coach.
purpose coach. So the purpose stuff, I guess, to me is sort of like based on that notion that I want to say all of us have, but I'll say generally the people who resonate with me or what I do, a desire to make a difference in some way in the world. Or even in their life, but to live a more purposeful life. And I think it's probably true that life doesn't really have any meaning. So it's not so much about the purpose of life, but perhaps life doesn't really have any meaning except for the meaning that you attribute to it or whatever you decide, whatever you choose. So then once you decide that, okay, so the meaning of my life is going to be to make a difference to people in some way, right? To contribute towards their healing, to contribute towards their education, to help them find love or experience love in their relationships that they have. If that's my purpose, then how can I make a difference using that? And so that's sort of, it's, yeah, like an evolutionary thing, I suppose, that as we start to sort out our own inner working, what I find is that most people who I've worked with, once they start kind of dealing with their, and for want of a better word, shit or crap, their inner turmoil or their grief or their pain or their whatever that is, once they start to deal with that, they then actually want to do something more. And often that longing or that desire to do something more, or even what that something more is about, is often connected to their own pain or their own healing or their own journey.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah, and so that's partly, I guess, my work has been just helping people to connect into that themselves. So it's not like, yeah, my job is to assist people to find that themselves, if that makes sense, to be kind of like a guide or a hand holder or a cheerleader or somebody who's beside them in that.
Yep. What
Yeah.
sort of people do you normally work with? What's it look like at the moment?
I have quite a mix at the moment. I find that my clients go in waves as well, a bit like I was saying with relationship stuff. Like sometimes I'll have, a lot of couples that are struggling with a particular issue, or I'll have a lot of single people that are, that I'm helping them to work with boundaries and desires and figuring out what it is that they want in a relationship or what they want in their life. So I primarily work with women, but I don't work just with women.
Yep.
So I have a client today and it's a guy. Um, but primarily, I work with a lot of women. I work with women in particular, but not just, but in particular, women who live regionally, rural, or remote. because that's where I grew up and I live somewhere regionally and I'm quite connected to regional people and I grew up on a farm as well, so I understand the whole dynamics of family farming businesses. So I do tend to resonate a lot with people in that. You often as well attract. So I have now, like I have a blended family. I have older teenage children. But when my kids were younger and I was working with, and I like trying to balance, juggle everything with little kids and all of that, I often attracted people in the same boat. I
Yep.
still do attract those people sometimes, but I'm like in the next phase. My youngest child is now nearly 15. So, it's teenager stuff and how to, help your kids segue into responsible adults and all of that stuff. So often, you resonate, people resonate with you because of your experience. As soon as I had a blended family, there were a lot of people that would be attracted to my work just because they'd hear me talk about being a stepmom or navigating a blended family. And then that said, I have plenty of clients who don't have kids, aren't in relationships, like I said, male or female. So I can work with kind of the range of everybody. My area of speciality, I think because I have teenagers, is not teenagers. I actually am happy, supporting my own kids with where they're at and potentially passing them on to other more expert people if they need extra support. So that's the only probably, I feel like I can work with anyone, but I don't particularly want to do teenagers right now.
Yep. 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 That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, do you feel that everybody has a purpose?
Yeah.
Yep.
But sometimes, and I think it's quite a privileged place to be in life if you not have time for that. But, if you actually are fully supported in every other area of your life. So you're not just trying to survive, all
Yep.
your basic needs are met, then I believe, yeah, it's quite a privileged thing to be able to, yeah, take some time to reflect on whatever your purpose is.
Yep.
But that said, I think there are people who don't have the same privilege that I certainly have, or many of us have, who still do pretty incredible things that is driven by, because to me, purpose is not actually a thing that you do. Uh, um, the thing that you do is the vehicle through by which you live your purpose. Purpose to me is an energy, and you can do anything in life purposefully,
Yep.
actually. Um, but yeah, I do believe that every single human born is a miracle of creation, and that miracle, there'll always be something, like, or for some reason that someone is precious in the world and they all have something to bring. And that can be, the writing a book or helping people in a certain way or creating an incredible artwork or a piece of music. It doesn't even have to be creative like that. It can be someone who, does incredible stuff with animals, wants to rescue puppies. There can be whatever that is, but all those things are the vehicle. But ultimately, like, yeah, the miracle of our creation is that there's something special for we're here for a reason.
Yep.
And that can be even the ongoing creation of children or yeah, anything
Anything.
that,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
it can be
Cool.
anything, but it's more an energy rather than a specific, your purpose is to be a nurse or whatever.
Yep.
I feel like you can fulfill your purpose through nursing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you could
Perfect.
also do it in another way.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for people that are watching this, Fleur and I have known each other for a little bit now. So doing my best to try and have this come across in a way that a stranger would go, "Oh yeah,
I
okay, that's what she does. No worries." So that's why I'm asking these sort of questions.
hope it's making sense. It might sound like I don't do anything.
Oh, they probably think that we're both crackpots, but that's all right. I'm sure that
Okay,
someone
good.
will work something out from this.
Beautiful. Good. That's fine. Don't mind being a crackpot with you,
Yeah.
B.
Yeah. So I just thought what I might ask you is there's a couple of things that we've done together um, that have resonated deeply for me that I think might help a few other people. Talk to me about your infinity concept.
Ah, okay. Beautiful. Well, this
Just high level, like
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, high level. And I will, like I always want to say, and I think this is what's really interesting with coaching and the kind of space and field that we work in. I don't know that anyone ever invents anything. So I do think that it's really important to always acknowledge source if you know what that source is. So I just want to acknowledge that I saw this, and I actually don't know what his name is, but anyway, for any of the you remember the marketing guys, Jeff and Kane. Jeff went on a bit of a spiritual journey, and I saw him speak at something. He was playing a flute. He was like right out there in the spiritual journey, I must say. But he was actually talking about the balance between he used the infinity symbol to talk about the balance between his kind of business brain and his business and spirituality, I think it was. And from what I could tell in terms of listening to it, I really resonated with the infinity symbol as he was talking about it. And I had felt like he was like way out on the one end of it in his spiritual journey. And so when I got home, I sat down and I was reflecting on that business spirituality thing because I thought, oh, I really relate to that. I relate to that in my own business. Because actually, regardless of how I've come across or in terms of what I've tried to explain when I've talked about energy and all of that stuff, I'm actually quite an astute businesswoman. I've worked in rural financial counseling. My husband owns an agronomy business. We've got um, a well, yeah, I've got a good model and good structure for how I do things in business. But that said, the energetics of it play a really big part. I have a science degree. I'm a marine biologist. I've studied lots of things and have lots of qualifications in things. So there was this part of me that's always like, well, I'm a scientist, right? Like, so I believe in science, but also there was this whole other part of me that when I tried to explain it, the word that came to me was like, so instead of business and spirituality, as he was trying to, as I first heard about this concept, for myself, I was like, this is like, I'm like a scientist, it's science and magic for me. And I was feeling into that and I'm thinking, okay, well, if this is a high level description of my personality, right? I kind of go between being a scientist and a magician. And I actually was quite comfortable with being a scientist, felt like it was about knowledge, felt very factual. Being magical felt a bit gross. I actually felt a bit sick. I was like, ugh, yuck, that's a horrible word. Like, that's really fluffy. And so somehow I was trying to work out like how do you live in the middle of that? And that's kind of when I discovered that if you picture an infinity symbol and the point in the middle where it crosses over, to me, I'm like, oh, purpose, if we're going to talk about purpose, purpose sits right in the middle of that. So the thing that I'm really amazing at, the thing that when I really get centered in that place is somewhere where I learn how to balance the scientist in me with the magical part of me. And there's this place in the middle which has, a certain amount of magic and faith and energy and energetics, but also knowledge and structure. And I believe, so then when I thought about that, one of the things that I worked with around identity with a lot of my clients is sort of based on this model of this identity thingy. I called it because I couldn't even come up with a better name than that. Um, was that same thing. Like, I feel like we all have that. And so what I was getting people to do is just to reflect on their own, like, sides, right? And understanding this kind of concept of identity where you live in that and you kind of, you flip between these two things that maybe even feel like they're opposing. And potentially one side of you'll be more comfortable with than the other. And then we can also have this experience of life, particularly when things are not good, where we go almost outside of ourselves and when we're at the extremes of that, the extremes on the outside. So to me, if I really went to the extremes of a scientist, I would be too factual, very controlling, very structured. And then if I went to the extremes of the magician, I'd be way too fluffy and off in the fair with the fairies. And neither of those actually support me. So like I said, there's this place in the middle, right in the center of all of that where my purpose sits. And so when I coach people in whatever that might be, whether that's about life, whether that's about their business, whether that is actually about their relationship, I have to be right in the middle of that. I have to balance my knowledge and the structure and, being organized about that with allowing this magical part, which is actually connected to everything else, God, if you believe in God or spirit or the universe or whatever that is for you, energy, allowing that to come into my coaching. And so that's how I work. It's kind of a combination of all of those things. So I hope that answered
Perfect.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So, talk to me about the Fleur. What do you like doing? What do you get up to? What are you as a normal person?
Well, there's a lot of things. I am a mother of six kids, so and that five daughters and one boy. Two of them, one of the girls and the boy are my stepchildren, but they just are our kids. They range in age from like 20, nearly 29 to nearly 15. So there's a pretty big range. But if you can imagine the balancing of all of that, including being a blended family, has been quite a consuming part of my journey for a long time, like being a mother. And the same thing, I guess, figuring out how you balance that, right? How do you balance being this role with also wanting to show them that anything is possible in terms of a purposeful life? So that's been really interesting. So I do a lot of that. We got a dog 18 months ago. She's a Labrador. And I mean, this is completely irrelevant, but if you want to know how I fill my time, so yesterday I had a friend come over for an hour. We were debriefing. She had just done something like an event, which I'll talk about in a minute, which is another thing that I do. And so she was debriefing her experience of she went on kind of tour. They did three events in a row and she was giving me her feedback and I was taking that on because I'm creating the training for that company. And the dog was with us most of the time. And then she disappeared for literally 5 minutes. And then she came back and was licking her paws and being a bit weird. And then she threw up. And then I found 4 liters of olive oil tipped over in the kitchen. And she'd ingested maybe 2 cups of it and spread the rest everywhere. So that took an hour of my life. Then I went away to get the kids, and when I came back, she'd thrown up more of the olive oil. So having a Labrador as a pet means that at least 1 to 2 hours of your day is taken up doing really random things with your dog. That said, I've always been an animal person. So we also have 2 rabbits, 6 chickens, 2 cats as well, and a dog. And so, my life, and 3 birds. So the combination of all of those animals is something, but I've always been into that too. Like, I grew up on a farm. We always had pets, pet kangaroos, emus, lambs, goats, anything. So, having animals around, and I live in town. Like I live in Geraldton, so I live in a regional coastal location in Western Australia, which is really beautiful, although it's been disgustingly hot. But I still live in a house in the suburbs, but we can still have all those animals and there's plenty of room. So that's pretty cool as well. I also work for a company. I've worked for them for about 20 years doing facilitation at relationship events, which has been really great. That company is based in Perth, but we're now expanding. So we've been running for the last couple of years events in California and just started in the last year on the East Coast. So Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, which has been really really exciting. And I've been kind of onboarding and training all the new partners to do those events. Because I guess when you've been going to an event maybe like 4 or 5 times a year for 20 years, there's all this knowledge that you've kind of accumulated that's never been, so it's the creation of systems, the creation of, making sure that we're creating similar events everywhere. But also probably my greatest joy in doing those events, as well as the impact that they have, which is why I'm helping to expand it, is facilitation of that, which once again uses that kind of same balance of science, knowing a bit having knowledge, knowing what you're doing, but being able to kind of tune into people and use magic as well to bring whatever it is that might be of most support to them. So that's kind of the magic of coaching. So lead facilitating at those events. So that means that there's been a lot more travel in my life in the last couple of years. I've gone to California. We just got back from the US and we did a bit of the East Coast in the US. I went to New York. And I don't know if I knew how much I love traveling, which
Yep.
is really funny because, we met, and one of the ways, I suppose this is the justification of travel. So I might have loved it, but I didn't really know. But I could justify traveling for work.
Yep.
So I often signed up with coaches who then you had to go and travel to do things with them, with the coaches. You go on a retreat or you would go and do something, and that would be travel, but it would be work justified.
Yep.
And that's how we met. But, actually like went this time when we went and spending a bit of extra time to travel afterwards and the whole thing, I'm like, oh, it's not just actually about work. It's that I really do love to travel. But I had my first child when I was 21 and I used to travel with her. We did amazing stuff. A single parent, her and I traveled. But I just didn't realize that, that actually was this key thing in my life. So that's something, I'm 50 now, that I've just realized that I love to travel. That is a thing. And so um, gearing up a life that then allows me to do that in combination with work and purpose and passion is pretty exciting.
That's cool. That's heaps cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Talk to me about the tools that you use. What do you think are your tools in your toolkit? They can be
Um,
feelings, they can be
yeah.
stuff. Like what do you feel?
I think I seek guidance a bit, which is it's really interesting. There is a whole a religious history in my family. So for a long time I kind of pushed away the notion of God. Um, and this is not a religious thing, it's more a spirituality thing. But just for me, the word that I actually had to accept when I decided to really embrace what I needed in my life to move forward, it was actually some kind of connection to
Yeah.
God or the divine or whatever. So I think it's really important to make time to connect because our lives can be really busy. And one of the things that's made such a huge difference in my life, one is like not being too busy all the time. And that's been really quite a hard thing to not do. But when I guess you do work on yourself, you understand the reason why you're doing that. So, for a long time I was trying to prove something. When it came to parenting, it was all about trying to not feel guilty, making sure I was providing for them, which doesn't serve anyone, so when you understand what your drivers are, what your leverage is, what your motivation is for doing things, and you can really change that in yourself, then you can learn to just calm it down a little more because it doesn't really serve anybody, me being that busy. And so, some of the things that I would use are ways in which that you can tune in. So taking time to meditate. I didn't used to be able to do that. It used to make me actually feel sick, like nauseous. But now I can sit. I can easily just sit for half an hour and just be, and my head be quiet and just actually tune into that. I don't really get, it's not even like I get messages in meditation, but if I make the time to meditate, generally afterwards something will occur to me or I'll feel guided to call someone, contact someone in some way, do something, go somewhere, go for a walk at a certain beach, see something. Yeah, so then it connects me to other things. I also do think that I'm a writer. I definitely don't write enough. And one of the ways in which I kind of forced myself to write, well, not for, it wasn't like forced, I don't mean in a bad way. I just wrote was when I used social media a lot to promote my business. So I was always writing and writing blogs and doing a lot of that. And that writing was really, really helpful to me to connect. I haven't been doing it as much, and we had this conversation just before, but I've it's been tricky. Social media has been a tricky space for me in the last, I don't know, probably 4 years in total. It's been a bit weird and it stopped being feeling like a safe place. I never worried about it before. I
Yeah.
shared everything, absolutely everything about any, and and it felt relevant and it felt helpful and it felt like not just cathartic for me, but people would give me feedback that it helped them. And then it stopped being a safe place. It felt like it stopped being a safe place. I'm only just starting to come out the other side of that. So there's a lot of like kind of internal encouragement to myself about and you need to like, or not just write because I do it, but I journal privately.
Yeah.
But that some of that is worth sharing. So journaling would be the other thing that I think is really important. And a lot of my programs, so I have also, as well as coaching people face to face, I have created a lot of content, which is programs, and generally all of my programs include stuff that you listen to, stuff that you read, and stuff that you write
Yeah.
so that how do you tap in and that it's just amazing when people actually start exploring, just stop and take a minute. It only has to be like 5 minutes a day to sit down and be like, what the fuck is going on with me? Or
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why am I so upset about this? Or why do I feel excited today? And actually just getting some of that out, because what will occur to you is the stuff that really actually matters, and it will guide you, a bit like you said, you don't know why you did this, but you just got this feeling that you should start doing this,
Yeah.
talking to people and putting it out there. And so if you trust that, that that will never take you down the wrong path. And I guess one of my other kind of central beliefs when it comes to purpose or whatever is that you're never on the wrong path, right? You might be on a weird diversion, but there's a reason why you're on that weird diversion, because when you come back from that to the path or whatever it is, like it's never the wrong path. It's just a windy bit on the path.
Yeah.
Or it's just a like right hand turn, but you're always on the right path. And I think
Yeah.
that if you can believe that, then you start to notice the signs. And, one of the other tools that I use always is and it's probably prayer would be but it's not like I sit there thinking that I'm praying, but I will just say, guide me, show me the way.
Yeah. Contemplation
Yeah,
and
like
yeah.
give me a sign, and it
Yeah.
might be as simple as that. Like if there's something I'm having trouble making a decision about, or I don't know what the next step is, or um, yeah, I'm trying to decide if something is wrong for me or right for me or whatever. I just ask for a sign and I trust that something's going to show up.
Yeah.
And I don't wait for that to happen, but I just keep living my life. But then something will show up, and that may just be a song on the radio, maybe a literal sign in the street. It may be the fact that three different people in a row have mentioned a book to
Yeah.
you, or a podcast, or, and one of the things that I always said also about social media is that, I would trust that sometimes something will pop up.
Yeah.
Um, that's that's just what you need to see or hear in that moment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Um, what do you like doing? What do you do when you got nothing to do?
Mm,
Or when you
read,
when you give yourself a day off?
read.
Yeah.
I love reading. I like reading books and a mixture. I usually have quite a few books on the go, and I'll have audio books. And I mix between like meaning things that are meaningful and educational or like useful to life, and actual just trash or like true crime or like an easy read of some kind. But yeah, I do love to read and then explore, like go to the beach or just go for a walk, like somehow connect in with nature. And I really love my friends. So
Yeah.
generally, I don't. I'm much better now, but that took a long time to. I really enjoy actually my own company and being on my own. I can do that. I didn't used to be. They used to make me anxious. But now I can do that. But also, I really make an effort because I think one of the things that we don't do also enough of is reach out and connect with people who are precious to us. And I do think as you get that bit older and, you head into that age where sometimes people are getting unwell, we might have lost people in our lives. You start to go, actually, what is life really about? And who do I want to hang out with? And yeah, do I tell the people in my life who I love that I love them enough? And do I spend enough time with them? And do I make an effort? So that's another thing that I've tried to become more mindful about doing, especially as my kids have gotten more independent.
Yep.
Like, because it was really hard when they were little. It was just sometimes it was really hard. I mean, you could go to the park, at least you could hang out with other adults, but there was always this demand, whereas it feels a lot more like, okay, that there are a lot of really precious people in my life, and how can I just make little touches with them? It doesn't have to be every month, even it can be a couple of times a year, but how can I make that happen?
Yep. Cool. All right, so two more questions.
Yes.
Um, I know that part of the journey with us has included essential oils and smell and pretty
Yes.
things. So, what do you feel, or what would you say would be things that you love to have around you? Are there smells
Mm.
that you really like? Are there flowers that you love? What are some things that bring you joy that way?
Yeah. So I love, like, I do love oils, and I think that they do play a pretty central role in my home. Generally for creating, like, I'll often sit with and contemplate the space I'm trying to create, or if even if it's relevant to something that I'm doing, and I'll just make a little blend of oils and then just get them happening. I'm in the process, my studio, which I'm in right now, is getting the carpet ripped out this week. And I'm getting much nicer flooring because the carpet's disgusting, especially considering my story about the dog yesterday. Well, it was in here that she um, showed me the olive oil that she'd ingested. So I'm pretty excited about that. And so that's making me feel really, because this space, one of the things that I do, so I always have candles in here. I use a lot of incense as well, and that's in my house generally. And we use a lot of oils. And I use oils as well. Like, so that's just for the creation of this zone,
Yep.
because I believe, if you've got a workspace, like that door there goes to my kitchen.
Yep.
And so, I've had to create some pretty serious boundaries around, like, this is my workspace. If I'm doing this, if that door is closed and I'm in here, you guys need to just give me some space to do that. But also you need the creation of that space, because I've got to change when I walk in here, and I've got to change again when I go out there. So there are different smells in particular, as well as just I've moved all my pot plants, except for this beauty just here,
Oh, cool.
out. But like, this space is like, normally there's so many plants that have just moved to another part of the house because I've got to get everything empty before tomorrow. But yeah, so having that space in a certain way. So that's, I guess, where smell is really important, and also light. There's a lot of windows in this room, a lot of indirect light. So this plants thrive in here as well. So I do need that to be a certain way. And then out in the rest of my house, there are I have completely different incenses and oils as well. And then a lot of the oils that we use out in the house are more actually about cleanliness or health. And my husband just had COVID, so our bedroom, I actually stayed in here away from him, didn't get it. Pretty happy about that. But do a lot of immune boosting stuff for me, and I feel like that makes such a difference. And I don't want to, like, speak too soon. However, like, all that immune boosting stuff that I do, I think makes a massive difference too.
Cool.
Yeah, and I really had to lean into that. But our bedroom has been, fairly bombed over the last week, for, first of all, for him, to help him with the symptoms, but then now to clean the air, clean everything up. So
Yep.
yeah. Um, I love essential oils. I think they just add, and it was really interesting because I always kind of used them, but never properly. And I know that it was a conversation with you that I had about when I really was like, oh, I can align this a lot more to what I do, because it was the understanding as well that like it's just going to contribute to help people to have a like to drop in quicker, or to have a, to have a bit of a deeper experience, or to have more of a transformation. So it is interesting. I do also use certain oils around, depending on if I know that I'm having a hard session with a couple. So when I talked about themes, I just had a period of time, probably the last 6 months of last year, where I was working. I worked with a limited number of couples at a time, but it was about four couples that were having a very hard time. And so there were a lot of really hard conversations. There was a lot of grief, a lot of courage was required to, from me, but really from them, and a lot of space holding for me. Yeah, I used the oils a lot to
Yep.
support that, to support this space, to support them to have the conversations that they need to. And as hard as all of those conversations are, like yeah, if you've got complementary therapies working,
Yep.
it's really helpful.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So a lady that I spoke to a few weeks ago, she talks about colors. She uses colors and she was a
Yes.
color consultant at some point. Like that
Yes.
sort of stuff makes me want to vomit, but they like take
Yeah.
you somewhere to pick the right colors for you to wear type thing. So that was pretty cool. Um,
Yeah.
and I know that you have always mentioned having fresh flowers, like
Yes.
have a nice bunch of fresh flowers in your office or in your space
Yeah.
or go in and getting yourself flowers. So I thought that was always pretty cool too.
Yeah, actually, I forgot about that, but I do have a bunch of, I think it's because nothing's in here. I've moved everything out.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of fresh flowers in the kitchen
Yeah.
here. So just in that room, just there. But I will always do that. I think that all those things about um ultimately, so one of the energies, to get back to the kind of magical airy fairy side of what I do, but one of the is really being actually able to drop into my feminine energy. And it is a balance. We have a balance of, both feminine and masculine within us, and it's just about how you tap into those. But for me, there was a lot of my life, I did not value that energy. I didn't nurture that energy. I didn't support that energy. And that energy is so much more about like space and flow and creativity. And they are the transformative things that I use now. Like I can have all the structure, I can, get all my business systems in place and make shit happen. And I was always able to do that. But that's what a lot of the busyness was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not the most supportive energy for me. That wasn't actually the most supportive energy for my clients. And so all of those things which help me to soften are actually really helpful. And flowers would definitely play a big part in that as well. I think it's really important, and just little things. I also do a lot more than I used to, but I will do breath work. I will go to meditation. I will do yin yoga. So rather than I still I do the gym and I do those things, but I was always more even a hardcore exerciser versus someone who could do yoga and lie there in Shavasana whereas now I can do all those things. I can do relaxation yoga and yin yoga and, yeah, go to the float tank, go to you know, I can do sauna, ice bath, but I do it to not to rev myself up, but to ground myself down.
Yeah.
So a lot of those grounding exercises and those things are also really important. Anything that embodies you, anything that gets you into your body, because I think a lot of us spend a lot of our time running away from our physical beings, especially if we're a person who experiences a lot of emotions or who has a lot of pain. Of course, it makes sense to try and live outside of your body, but actually, the only way that's ever going to feel better is if you learn to be with and embody your body.
Yep. Yep.
Mm.
Perfect. And lastly, gorgeous, how do people find you if they want to talk to you, work with you?
Mm.
Where do you want me to send them?
Oh my goodness. I don't even know. No, that's not true. Um, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, Fleur Porter Purpose Coach, or
Yep.
just Fleur Porter. I do have a website, but it's probably a bit outdated. But anyway, fleurporter.com. You can definitely see. And by outdated, I just mean like I haven't probably freshened things up, but it's not that anything's changed. So that's probably what I want to reassure you about. Even the lack of or limited social media posts and everything like that. It's not like anything's changed. It's just that, it's not like, oh, March 2024, here's what's happening.
Yeah.
But there are a few bits and pieces in there. But yeah, the gist of what I say and the intent of what I say is all there.
Yep.
And so you can just reach out to me. You can just email me directly. It will come through. All of that's on the website. My phone number might even be on there. Message me on Facebook. Any form of contact is fine.
I'll pop
And,
your links in the
generally,
comments.
yeah, and generally all I do ever, because I haven't really been doing any specific marketing. So don't also let that tip off and go, are you still coaching? And I say, yeah, I am, because it's happened more organically. I was saying this to you before. But like with anyone, if you are interested or you just want to know more or you feel really compelled to work with me, then you just reach out. We have a chat. I tell you all about it. I'll tell you how much it costs up front and let you know what that is and
Yep.
all of that stuff, and then you can make a decision. I don't do hard sales. I'm not doing
Yep.
any of that shit.
Yep.
But I will be upfront with you, and if I think that that I can help you, or if you feel like I'm that person, then yeah, happy to do that. Would love to.
Cool. Cool. All right.
Beautiful.
Well, have you got any parting words that you want to tell anyone?
Oh, I can't even think, but I would just say that if B reaches out to you to have a chat, then it's a good thing to do. Lean into that. It's been really good. I actually haven't had a conversation. I haven't probably articulated it like
Perfect.
this in a long
That's
time. So
perfect.
thank you for doing that because it's probably given me an opportunity to articulate it and also lean into what I know I need to do next for me too.
Yep. Yep.
Thanks.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to press stop. So thank you.